So welcome back to Tim Tom Talks. I'm Tim in Australia.
And I'm Tom in California, Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. And today we are talking about inspire or inspiration and inspiring yourself and inspiring others.
Yes, the last of our four I's. Imagination, ignite, immerse, and now inspire.
Yeah, and I think I'll just add one thing reflecting on each of these. You know, as a methodology of leadership, each of those four categories can be applied to yourself and enhancing yourself and developing your leadership. And then through you, it can be applied to those that you lead and to the leaders that you are nurturing and creating through your own leadership.
Absolutely.
So, Tom, what do we want to talk about today in terms of inspiring?
Well, let's talk about, we have certain topics that we know that we're going to cover with this. And that's motivating others, nurturing leadership, inspirational leadership, our self-motivation, purpose, and then inspiring others, and developing a team value and purpose, and then lastly, owning your future. So starting first, motivating others, how do you use inspire as a concept? Because we'll go into more detail in a second, but inspire as a concept, what does that mean for motivating others or getting others to go in a certain direction?
I mean, for me with this, leadership ultimately is fundamentally about motivation, right? I mean, unless you're completely, not to be, sort of too ironic in our current context, but unless you're completely in isolation, but in isolation completely, like as a leader of one, as a solopreneur who never has any intention of ever having anybody as a team. But as soon as you have a team of one more than yourself, and so on and so on, your primary delivery mode as a leader is inspiration. Because if it's not, then you're managing and you're telling and you're instructing. And that is, in every way very different to what we're referring to as leadership. So
go on. I also think about what we did cover, as we've covered the other three. Imagination, we really talked about thinking about how things could be. When we talked about ignite, we talked about lighting that fire behind motivation, getting people excited. And then immersing, it's like digging into the problem and talking about it. But when we're inspiring, it's the longevity of keeping people focused on getting to your mission or following your mission. Do you agree?
From a motivational perspective, the inspiration piece is for me, it's akin to the fish or the fishing rod analogy. You can be very motivating as a proximate leader, with incredible, sort of passion and sort of incisive direction. But as soon as you're absent, that impact diminishes very, very quickly. If you're inspirational, you really are, sort of giving something over and sort of producing something which can be received and then taken away and continues to have at least as much impact and sort of power as the person has sort of separated from your immediate proximity and gone on their way. You are giving them a fishing rod, not a fish.
You're an inspirational leader. It's also realizing that it's not doing it one time.
Yeah,
it's living it, because you're going to get into challenging situations. People are going to reach burnout. Even now, it's finding different ways to get people to tap into their internal motivators and really get themselves to go forward.
Yeah. So how do you do this? How does someone inspire themselves and then inspire others? And we talk about purpose, less in immerse, but somewhat in ignite and a lot in imagine. And this is where the circulation of the methodology comes together, because inspiration has to come from purpose. And as Tom said, they're living the purpose, living the values that reflect the pursuit of the purpose, and others seeing that, you communicating that that's what you're doing repeatedly, consistently, that shows others what you're doing and how you're doing it, and that what they're receiving in terms of direct motivation comes from this very powerful intrinsic source that you have, and then you're helping them to find their own, that they're not just sort of mimicking yours, then mirroring it until such a time as they found their own, and then that propels them onwards. Is that clear and concise enough? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I thought that was great. And I think also when we're talking about intrinsic motivation for yourself leadership, it's also being a continual learner and finding new things that inspire yourself, because as you maintain a high level of inspiration, so will you inspire your team. And as you teach yourself to be more of a learner and a person who is looking for some inspirational moments or some inspirational work or some inspirational purpose. And I love the way that you use purpose in this form. When we're driving toward our purpose, we naturally create endorphins and dopamine, and our energy level is just up. And when our energy level is up, we're going to inspire those around us to be more energized as well.
It's a really interesting analogy that one of the conversations I had a short while ago for Better World Leaders with this guy, Paul Dunn. I mean, he referred to purpose as essentially sort of being the vehicle that gets you out of bed every day. So those things that you've just touched on there in terms of the hormonal release and the sort of the energy that recognition of purpose and then that pursuit of it gives you, I think that's a really apt, sort of analogy that Paul's provided to something that everybody should be familiar with, getting out of bed every day. You have that hormonal stimulus, you get that kick in the morning. Hopefully you've had some sleep and you're up and you're at 'em. The purpose is, you get up every day because that was pretty much exactly what Paul said. Your purpose is I get up every day because, and that might be as simple as I need a paycheck to, sort of cover the rent this week, but it ideally is, so much greater than you, so much longer term than, the immediacy of a wage, sort of contract. And those greater callings, those bigger purposes, those are the things that sustain you so much longer and make you happier, and essentially will create the inspiration that you want and need as a leader.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for me personally, there's two different ways that I've done this for myself, and that keeps me motivated without any other influence from the outside. When I was getting my doctorate, I knew I needed to get a topic that no matter what happened, I still was interested in it. I still wanted to know about it. It was really good because people had told me it's really hard work. And I knew that I needed something that I was interested in to keep going. And the fact is that saved me. And I read this book, and I can't remember the name of it for the life of me right now, but it was about finding your 5 goals for your lifetime. And those 5 goals are based on how would you want people to remember you when you died? What type of person do you want to be remembered as? And those become your goals. And what I've realized in doing those goals, I measure everything that I choose to do based on whether it is going to meet and live up to one of those goals and create me as a person for that. And one of the things that I realized in this, and it came to me in a dream when I was younger, but I came to life in the last couple of years, is that I know my purpose is to be a light to other people, to help them find their way, to help them find their true path, to help keep them inspired, to help keep them excited about what they want to be, and about balancing being a good person and being successful, and making sure that you don't lose either, that you don't have to be a bad person to be successful. You can be a good person, you can be successful, you can do what you need to do, and you can create a better environment for other people. And that's why I want to, and I do, coach leadership, because I want to help people create a better environment for themselves and for others.
I've had the sort of unrecognized knowledge that my purpose was to help others. The sort of the refinement of exactly how and why I was doing it has only come in the last, probably for me, 3 or 4 years. But what that is all around helping leaders, make a contribution to, what for me is the biggest thing, bigger than yourself, which is the world, and making the world better. But the important thing about purpose is exactly to your point, Tom, about your doctorate. A consistent purpose and a focus on it sustains you through good and bad. You can get up, and I get up because my purpose is, and have a really, really rough and tough day, and go to bed knowing that you've done something productive to pursue your purpose, in comparison to what everybody wants and thinks happens all the time with successful people, that they get up and they just crush it and they have a stellar day every time, and they go to bed able to tick off all these amazing things that they've done. And that's no one's reality, at least not the majority of the time. The least satisfied leaders that I know, the most unhappy leaders that I know, are those who either have no knowledge of their purpose or no connection to it in what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I've coached and worked with people that I looked at going into the engagement as being, really successful people, people that are really approaching the pinnacle of their career. And, all of the external factors that we assess success by, you would say they've either achieved or, they've got it locked in. And then you spend time with them and you really sort of get, sort of into the crucible with them about what's driving them and what satisfies them, and essentially how content they are with the contribution they're making. And a lot of the time they are hating life, like to the point that they're actually internalizing some really destructive emotion. And it always reaches this same juncture. They have no concept of how what they're doing contributes to something bigger than themselves. And they have no real strong sense that they know what that greater achievement is going to be. So that's why we start with imagination, to reflect back on the point that Tom made a couple of minutes ago. If you can start by projecting all the way out to the end of you, if not the end of things, and then say, well, what will I be, sort of framed as? What will my contribution have been? And then you can set your stall out there, come back to today, and then work forwards towards that endpoint. That's the imagination part. We begin there because it gives you the construct to get to this point. And I am now inspiring because I've defined what that is, and I'm on my way to achieve it.
I think both of us can say this. In fact, I'll give you an example that you're going to smile to. is that when you find your purpose, and it's like it seems like this aha moment, but then you start looking back at your experiences and at how it led you to here. For instance, 10, 11 years ago, we met by volunteering to help rebuild a city that was demolished on a tsunami and a earthquake. And that's how we initially met in Peru. And you're not, different country from where you're from, different country from where I'm from. That's where we meet. And we're doing something to better those people's worlds, right? And to create a school and even bathrooms so they could live a better life, right? So, I mean, this is how it works. It's like once you realize that's what you did, you can look back and say, oh my God, this is what I'm meant to do. And this will help you get out of bed every day. More than that, when you start trying to inspire others, that is going to give you the fuel and the energy to do it.
And I think for a lot of leaders that, I am really, inspired by, and I would point to and say, here's the list of, people that I would love to be like. They will openly say, from a selfish perspective, although I prefer the term self-full perspective, that you are doing something for yourself, that is for you, but is going to be productive for others. But that they get a huge stimulus and this sort of perpetual kickback from, seeing others go on and do great things because of the small intervention that they had and the influence that they've given and the inspiration that they've provided. So it becomes a perpetual self-sustaining feedback loop of positive energy. Others will inspire you because you've inspired them.
what happens is you know what it feels like and you know what it looks like. And you know what it feels like to have that light come on, and you know what it looks like. So the most fulfilling thing that I've experienced is teaching people how to find their own and find their path and find what matters and their purpose. To see that light come on, oh my God, it's one of the greatest gifts in the world.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you anything greater than helping somebody find something that gets those lights on in their eyes. It's a beautiful thing. And, you know, it just happens to be very productive for your workplace as well, which, great, there's a bonus. So you get this great personal sense of accomplishment, and it's not yours at all, it's the other person's. And, but you got to be a part of them finding it. And I think that's amazing.
Agreed. And look, I mean, I think there's a point for me here where, you know, I would say openly, inspiration is what you need and what you want to create as a leader if you're trying to build something for the long term that is sustainable and has got an enormous carry forward. If you're trying to build something for the short term, you know, if you want to build a company in a year and sell it and move on to the next thing, then potentially park this, right? This is too hard. This is not going to get you what you want. If you're after that short term cash in, check out, then just stay as a manager, be instructive, be directive, you know, just sort of follow the playbook and get out. But if you want to make something arguably more significant and create something that's going to be conducive to the greater enterprise ahead, you know, and look at the businesses which have gone on to become institutions in their own right. Like you know, the businesses that have got a bigger P&L than most, you know, sort of countries, you know, have got a top line that outbids the GDP of all bar whatever. You know, we know who we're talking about here, the Amazons of this world, right? Those,
well, and Bill Gates has outlived him at the company.
So those brands, those entities were built by inspiration, because inspiration comes from the foundation of purpose. You know, Gates, Jobs, Bezos, Musk, all of these people have set out, you know, to build something inspirational on the premise that the purpose that that entity is serving is greater than the individual or the first team or the founders or whatever, right? So that sounds almost counterintuitive, but I think, you know, at the heart of everything we do is the premise that what we do is not for everybody. You know, it is for a group of people who want to be, frankly, great and make a contribution to something which will outlive them. That's our intention. That's what we want to do. So yeah, if you want to build something quick and move on to the next thing, sign out. On to the next one, please.
Yeah, I do want to make 2 points because we're going to be wrapping up here in a second. And I think we've talked about ourselves and we've talked about individuals, but you can do this, and it's most important to do this with a team and help the team find its purpose, help the team find its values, help the team find its own language and create its own energy, because that can be an energy ball in and of itself. And lastly, owning your future. By doing this, you're going to own what direction you're going and how you get there.
That's the one thing that kind of the pot at the end of the rainbow, although, you know, the rainbow is real and the pot is achievable, is that, again, I've met a lot of people over the 15 years, you know, that I've been working with executives who feel incredibly lost and disenfranchised and, you know, reach a sort of a tipping point, you know, which may be in the middle or it might be right at the end. For some, it's quite early in their careers and they just go, why am I doing this? You know, and all of those external, extrinsic drivers become irrelevant. And they cannot look at their future with any sense of ownership because there's no association with why they're doing it.
And I will say, and then we'll sign off, is that the leader that doesn't think it's possible, then you know what, you need to think it's possible first. But we can help you get there, right? We can. That's the whole idea of this this program of the 4 Eyes, is to help you to be that leader and find that purpose, to find this inspiration and value, and to be able to imagine your future and ignite that passion, and to immerse yourself in what you need, and then finally to get here to be able to inspire other people to do the same thing.
And we have done it for numerous leaders over multiple years in various geographies and corporate contexts and stages of life and career and all of that stuff. This works. It's worked for us. That's why we built it. We built it to share it because we know that it works, and we know that it works through our work. So if you don't consider that a world bettered by your leadership is possible or important, then maybe this is not for you.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you, Tim, for your time. Thank you, everybody, for watching that did watch.
It's been a good session. I hope a motivating one for you. Or, Frank, you've watched some of this and gone, oh, yeah, no, this is not for me. And that's good. And on you go to the next thing. But if you have in any way, sort of engaged with this, with the topic, come back next week where we'll be talking about mastering these 4 I's, how you flow through this program that we can lay out for you. And, we can get into this all a little bit more.
Have a good day.
See you then.